Ever feel tired, sluggish, unmotivated, and you just don't know why? Well, it might not just be life. It might be your habits. There are certain things that you do on a daily basis that make you feel so much worse, and sometimes you don't even realise it. So today, I'm breaking down 10 habits that will make you feel absolutely awful, and how to fix them. Oh, and by the way, if you're new here, my name is Willis. I'm a qualified accountant who also makes YouTube videos on the side about all things money, personal finance, and personal development. Let's jump into it. Habit number 1 is skipping exercise. Now, you don't necessarily need to be a gym rat, but skipping movement entirely, now that's a big mistake. You see, exercise releases endorphins, which we can liken to the brain's happiness juice, and improves your energy levels and makes you feel much better. According to research from Harvard Medical School, regular exercise helps to reduce the symptoms of depression. And there are many other benefits of regular exercise as well, such as improving your sleep, protecting against heart disease and diabetes, and lowering your blood pressure as well. And so if we're not exercising regularly, or we find ourselves regularly skipping exercise, how do we fix this? Well, remember to just start small. So you can just start with even just a 10-minute walk every single day around the block where you live. That's better than nothing. The most important thing is we just need to move, get the body moving, get those endorphins flowing. Perhaps you can get up 10 minutes earlier than normal and go for a morning jog or a morning walk. You could do a walk on your lunch break at work rather than sitting at your desk scrolling social media and eating lunch. The key here is to start small, where you'll start to see the benefits, and then the amount of time that you can exercise for will just build up over time, because you'll enjoy it, because you'll realise how much better you feel when you do it. For me personally, I've been exercising pretty much every morning for a number of years now, and so this has just become part of my daily routine. And ultimately, if you turn your exercise into a habit and form it into part of your routine, it then becomes part of your identity, and it takes no effort to do whatsoever. It's just who you are and what you do. And as Jim Rohn said, take care of your body. It's the only place that you have to live. Habit number 2 is sleeping in. Hitting snooze feels good in the moment, but realistically, it wrecks your sleep quality. The reason for this is because it confuses your body's internal clock, because your body doesn't know whether it's time to wake up or go to sleep. 1 minute it's awake, the next minute it's asleep, and ultimately it kind of just messes up this rhythm. In my experience, if I wake up, hit the snooze button, and then go back to sleep, whether that's just for a few minutes or even up to an hour, then once I wake up again for the second time, I feel way more groggy, way more sluggish for the rest of the day, despite having actually got more sleep. And so personally, whenever I wake up, unless it's like right in the middle of the night, I prefer just to get up and get on with it rather than trying to get a few extra minutes of sleep, because when I do that, I just feel so much better. Research from the National Sleep Foundation also found that inconsistent wake-up times actually had a negative impact on cognitive ability and could cause mood swings. So we can really see the importance of picking a regular bedtime, a regular wake-up time, and just sticking to those, because your brain loves routine. So how do we fix this? Well, one thing that Alex Hormozy says is to set an alarm to go to bed rather than to wake up. What this means is that you're allowing your body to wake up naturally rather than jolting up awake in the morning when it hears the sound of your alarm. And ultimately, if you set an alarm for 9 p.m. to go to bed, it's very difficult to oversleep the following morning because you're in bed pretty early. And of course, if you're worried about oversleeping, even if you are in bed at 9 p.m, then you can set an alarm on your phone or use a physical alarm clock and just put it on the other side of the room, so that when the alarm goes off, you have to physically get out of bed to actually turn it off. And once you're out of bed and up, it's much easier to stay up than to go back to bed and then get up again. Habit number 3 is not drinking enough water. You're not tired, you're just dehydrated. Well, maybe you're tired too. So what does not drinking enough water do to your body? Well, there are many side effects of being dehydrated. This includes obviously being thirsty, getting muscle cramps, getting headaches, maybe having a lack of focus, or being even confused in extreme situations. According to research, the average person needs between 2 and 2.5 litres of water per day. And this is to maintain an optimum level of hydration. And remember, if you're incorporating point number 1 into your daily routine and exercising on a regular basis, then if you're sweating as a result of the exercise, you need to drink more water to make up the difference. So if you're not drinking enough water, how do we fix this? Well, why don't you make it a habit to start your day with a 500 milliliter large glass of water every single morning before you eat, drink, or do anything else. Drink this even before you have your morning coffee. And then throughout the day, you can keep a large bottle of water next to you on your desk or wherever you may be to keep you reminded that you need to drink on a daily basis. And these days you can get these water bottles that have different times on them, and so if you struggle to remember to drink or just don't like drinking water, then you can keep an eye on the scale down the side of the bottle, and that will tell you when you need to drink or whereabouts you need to be on the water level by a certain time of day to help keep you accountable. Habit number 4 is eating a poor diet. Processed foods, too much sugar, and skipping meals, That's a recipe for disaster. And I think we all know that eating highly processed foods is really not good for us, but they just taste so good. The problem is, lots of ultra-processed foods can cause big spikes in blood sugar levels, and this can lead to energy crashes, brain fog, and irritability, all of course making you feel worse. According to research in Australia, if your diet consists of more than 30% of ultra-processed food, so things like McDonald's and other fast food, you may be up to 23% more likely to suffer from depression. And of course, we know these types of foods are high in fat and low in nutrient density, and so this can lead to other physical issues like obesity or diabetes later down the line. So how do we fix this? Well, the key for me is always to try and stick to whole foods as much as you possibly can. You also need to balance your meals and make sure that you're getting enough protein, particularly if you're exercising as well. If you do this, your future self will thank you greatly. One thing you can do to help keep yourself accountable is to download something like MyFitnessPal or another food logging app, where this will give you the total number of calories that you've eaten for the day, the total amount of carbs, fats and proteins, as well as some information on micronutrients as well, which can really help keep you accountable and make sure you're not eating too much, too little, or an imbalance of the different macronutrients. Habit number 5 is sitting down all day. Now, in modern society, a large chunk of the population, myself included, do spend the most of their day sitting down. And this is terrible for your overall health. And sitting for extended periods of time can increase the likelihood that you will develop some kind of chronic illness. And these can include things like heart disease, diabetes, or some forms of cancer as well. And some are even dubbing sitting as the new smoking because of the effect that it has on your health. And what makes this worse, really compounds the effect of sitting down all day, is poor posture while you're sitting down. And this can lead to longer term spinal issues like degenerative disc disease and hunchback. Poor posture can make things like depression, cognitive function, anxiety and stress levels to really increase. And if you're constantly in a poor posture, then it can probably damage your confidence levels as well. So how do we fix this? Well, we need to make sure that when we're working, which is what most of us are doing when we're sitting down all day, we need to make sure that our ergonomics, our system that we're working on, is well suited to support our good posture. So how can we do this? Well, we can make sure the screens that we're working on are sitting at eye level. We can make sure our chair supports our lower back. And maybe we can invest in a standing desk as well, so we can actually stand and work for short periods of time to relieve that pressure on our lower back. It's also good to stand up and stretch every 30 minutes or so, or at least every hour, and go for a short walk and get your eyes away from the screen. All this, over time, should help improve your posture. And I heard a quote recently that your posture is a reflection of your state of mind. Habit number 6 is overthinking and worrying about things. Now this one's a tricky one to overcome, but you're exhausting yourself mentally and even physically to an extent before you've even taken any action at all. Ultimately, overthinking things just causes plain stress in your body, and stress is not good for anyone. And this is because stress releases a hormone called cortisol, and cortisol can drain your energy and increase your anxiety levels. And this can also lead to irritability and restlessness, which can cause poor sleep quality or muscular tension, which also have a whole variety of their own downsides as well. Specifically, the American Psychological Association notes that chronic stress can actually weaken your immune system and speed up your aging. So how do we fix this? Well, one way that we can try and tackle this is to journal our thoughts down every single morning and every single night. This is to get our thoughts out of our head and on paper, and so they're not just floating around in your mind all day and all night. And ultimately, if something's outside of your control, then we have to just try and let it go. And I know this is easier said than done, but as Stephen Covey says in his best-selling book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, he says we should focus on controlling the things in our circle of control and forget about the things in our circle of influence. Now, the circle of control is, of course, things that we can actually control, whereas our circle of influence is the things that do have an impact on our life, but we have no control over. Things like the weather or politics to an extent. And so for these things that we can't control, there's no point really worrying about them if we can help it. And another great quote I recently heard here is that worrying does not take away tomorrow's problems, but it does take away today's peace. Just bear that in mind. Habit number 7 is staying up too late. Yes, so the I'll just watch one more video lie, we've all been there. The problem with this is that screens before bed can mess up the body's production of melatonin. So what is melatonin, you may ask? Well, melatonin is the hormone in the body that regulates our sleep-wake cycles. Melatonin signals to your body whether it's time to start feeling tired and therefore time to go to bed, or whether it's time to wake up. But the problem with screens is they emit blue light, and blue light suppresses the body's natural production of melatonin. And so what this does is it delays sleep. And in some cases, if you're on a screen just before bed, this can delay the amount of time it takes you to actually go to sleep by up to 90 minutes. So not getting enough sleep or not getting enough quality sleep can have a detrimental impact on your health, including heart problems. Sleep inefficiency may cause inflammation and reduce the immune system's ability to fight off infections. Too little sleep can also be linked to things like obesity, a slower metabolism, and just generally death of any cause. Now this is pretty scary stuff, but what's even worse is that according to research, only 36% of Americans say that they actually get at least 7 hours of actual sleep time every single night. The average sleep time for most is around 5.7 hours, which is far less than the recommended 7 to 9 daily average sleep time that we need. So how do we fix this? Well, we can set up a wind down routine in the evenings to make sure that we're not looking at our screens maybe 1 hour or so before bed, or not eating too close to bedtime as well. And as we said earlier, just pick a bedtime and stick to it every single day. Your brain loves routine. Habit number 8 is binge watching and procrastination. So watching the full season of a brand new Netflix series may feel good in the moment, but afterwards, regret city. This is because you lose so much time. You lose sleep as well, and you fall behind on your goals. And there's a new term I actually heard recently called post-series depression. And this is actually a thing where you just feel empty after completing a series. And this is especially true if you are deeply invested in the storyline. And what I've always liked to do if I'm watching any kind of TV series is just to spread it out over a number of days, or let's say you've got 10 episodes, I'd spread it out over 10 days. Because then you avoid that massive one hit of dopamine on one day, and you actually get to bed on time every single night, and it can actually form part of your routine if you were to watch something just before bed. Now, of course, procrastination is a much wider subject, but on the whole, procrastination just generally makes you feel like you're not moving towards your goals. So how do we fix this? Well, one thing I like to do is just turn on the TV when I actually have something specific that I want to watch, rather than just turning it on and scrolling through and seeing what's available. If I have something in mind, only then turn on the TV. And another general rule you can use to overcome any kind of procrastination is called the 5-minute rule. And this is where you just say to yourself, you make a commitment to yourself to just do the thing that you need to do, that you've been putting off for 5 minutes. You know, at the end of that 5 minutes, you can either carry on doing it, or you have full license to quit and do something else. Now, what I find personally is if I do this 5-minute rule, 9 times out of 10, probably 99 times out of 100, I actually stick to it and see it through. This has been a game changer for me. Habit number 9 is not getting outside. Not getting outside equals a lack of sunlight. A lack of sunlight equals low levels of vitamin D. Low levels of vitamin D equals poor immune system, weak bones, and poor mood. And ultimately, fresh air and natural light will boost your energy levels and improve your mood and mental health overall. And I've really noticed this personally, if I have a day where I don't really go outside much, maybe I'm working hard, then by the afternoon I'll start to feel slow and sluggish and feel like I really need some fresh air, some natural light, and just to get outside and move, as we talked about in habit number 1. And Dr. Andrew Huberman, who's a neuroscientist, he's mentioned many times that getting natural sunlight into your eyes within 30 minutes of waking can actually help set your circadian rhythm, which regulates your sleep patterns, which can ultimately improve your quality of sleep and therefore your energy levels as well. Research has also shown that a lack of sunlight exposure can actually increase the chances that you'll suffer from seasonal depression. And this is where you love the summer, you're really happy, but in the winter, when it's cold and a bit darker outside, then you're pretty much depressed. So it's really important just to get outside, get some fresh air, get some movement in, and get some of that sunlight on your skin. And habit number 10 is chasing perfection instead of progress. So perfectionism can lead to procrastination, anxiety, and burnout. And studies have shown that perfectionism can actually lead to an increase in anxiety and depression levels because you're so worried about being perfect all the time and with everything that you do that nothing is ever really good enough. So how can we try and fix this? Well, instead of aiming for perfection, which is, by the way, subjective, why don't you instead aim for excellence? Now, in my view, excellence means you're just doing essentially the best you possibly can, but what you've produced isn't necessarily perfect. And as the great Winston Churchill once said, he said, perfection is the enemy of progress. What we want to do every single day is to make sure that we are progressing and improving. Every single day does not need to be perfect. We just need to make progress. So overall, some of these habits can feel harmless when you're actually doing them, but in the long term, they can actually ruin your energy levels, focus, and mood. So which of these habits are you guilty of? I know I'm definitely guilty of 1 or 2 at least. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, I know you'll love this one. But don't go just yet. Please make sure to drop a like on this video and subscribe to the channel. I'll see you over there. Bye.